Governor Jerry Brown signed legislation yesterday that changes the language in state laws that define marriage between man and woman to reflect marriage equality for same-sex couples. Here with more on that change and the preview of this year's local Pride events is Fernando Lopez with San Diego LGBT Pride. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You got it. Fernando, Governor Brown says they're also going to change husband and wife in state codes. How significant is this for the LGBT community?
I think it's a significant step, not just for the LGBT community, but for any couple, really. The marriage laws have shifted over the last 100 years to make them more and more equitable. So, for instance, 100 years ago, a woman would be considered property on the deed to a house that was owned by a man, or the striking down of interracial marriage bans in the 30s here in California, and then in the 60s everywhere else. And so marriage laws were continue to evolve in a way that makes them more equitable. And this is really just sort of solidifying what the courts have already said, that everyone should be treated equally. And I think that has implications for not just the lesbian and gay community, but for heterosexual couples as well.
The language limiting marriage to a man and woman, it actually, you talked about 100 years ago, but that's really relatively recent. What was it like before as far as in this state? And you mentioned some of the changes.
Yeah, so for instance, like in 1937 with Perez v. Sharp, California started to set the stage of repealing the laws banning interracial marriage. And marriage laws were actually gender neutral up into 1977. When Pride started in 1974 here in California, or in San Diego, at the time it was still illegal to be gay. Being gay was considered a mental illness. It was legal to lobotomize gay men. But when those things changed and the LGBT community started to gain more sort of cohesion and started fighting for their rights, they realized, oh no, these gay people are going to want to get married. We can't have that. So the legislature in 1977 changed the law to say marriage is a civil contract between two persons, to marriage is a civil contract between one man and one woman. That same language was used to impose the ban on out-of-state marriages in 2000 with Prop 22, and then to alter our Constitution in 2008 with Prop 8, of course.
Which is now, all of it
has been struck down
by the Supreme Court. There's been a lot of legal victories, though. We were talking about some of the obstacles that had to be overcome in LGBT equality. What barriers do you think the top barriers remain?
I think we still need to focus on supporting our LGBT youth. At the moment, 40% of homeless youth are identified as LGBT, and they cite familial rejection as the #1 reason why they are on the streets. We still don't have a cure for HIV and AIDS, and it's still important that we focus on finding culturally competent care for our LGBT and aging seniors. So I think those are some of the key areas that we still need to focus on. So it's one thing to shift the policy itself, it's another to start educating people and treating everyone fairly.
Let's talk a little bit about San Diego's Pride Parade. The first one was 40 years ago, as you mentioned. What was it like back then?
So back then, Pride was, Pride didn't start as a party. Pride started as a riot in 1969 in Greenwich Village. And as the commemoration of that riot moved from city to city, it moved to San Diego in 1974, where several dozen people took to the streets from downtown San Diego, many of which had paper bags over their heads, many of which were active duty service members. And they ended in Balboa Park with a rally. So at that time, they couldn't have a permit. And it just is so significant how far we've come, since tomorrow morning we're going to be working with the mayor's office and lining the Gaslamp Quarter downtown with rainbow flags for the first time. So quite a lot of change.
Quite a lot. I was going to say the theme of this year is Reflections of Pride. Tell us a little bit more. So you've got the flags going on. There was record attendance last year.
There was record attendance. Ever since the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell happened, San Diego being the highest concentration of military personnel in the country means we have the highest concentration of LGBT military personnel. So when the repeal went away, our attendance went through the roof. And then last year with the Supreme Court victories, it sort of happened after LA Pride, but before San Diego Pride. So everybody was just ready to take to the streets and celebrate these amazing victories.
Briefly, we'll have to end on this. The Pride Parade is just one part of the festivities on July 19th. Tell us what else is happening.
Well, there's the rally on Friday where Laverne Cox from Orange Orange is the New Black will be the keynote speaker. And then Saturday, it's $20 to get you in the whole weekend for over 280 entertainers across 12 stages with amazingly diverse entertainment. And NASA's going to be there for the first time this year, and that's really exciting. They're going to engage with the LGBT community and particularly with our youth zone and our children's garden.
All right, Fernando Lopez, thank you so much. And I want to let folks know that San Diego's Pride Parade is Saturday, July 19th. It starts at 11 a.m. and in Hillcrest and travels all the way through 6th and Laurel Avenue. For more information, go to kpbs.org.